for this section 1.1, let's just go back real fast to what we did last week. What's the difference between an expression and an equation? Yeah. Probably remember equation as an equal sign. Well, another relationship is that these are kind of the reverse of the same exact problem. So if you look at this, 2x minus 3 if x equals 4, 2x minus 3 equals 5, it's actually the same problem, but you solve in reverse. And that's why here you have the order of operations in order, grouping, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. But then the equation is really the reverse of that and how you solve it. So you first thing you want to do is add, subtract, then multiply, divide, then do the exponent, and lastly do grouping. Let me show you. You can write this down as well in your notes. Evaluate, you guys know this better as plug in. So when you have expressions, you usually evaluate it. You don't solve it, but you evaluate it. You either plug it in or simplify is another way of saying it. And we just do this, plug it in, 2 times 4 minus 3. Okay. No grouping, no exponents, multiply. 8 minus 3. Add, subtract. 5. So here we're given the answer, and we basically did a check. That's what it is. It's like checking your answer using the equation. But here with the expression, you start with the answer. What if you don't have the answer? Well, you work backwards. So instead of doing grouping and then exponents, you're going to start with the add subtraction. So we're going to start with adding 3 to both sides. Addition property of the ball here. 2x, 0, equal sign. Your equal sign should be relatively lined up, straight down, more or less, lined up. And then 8. Your answer should always be right below. So you see how the 2x, I didn't do anything to it? I drop it straight down. The negative 3, positive 3 is 0, but we don't really write plus 0, that's why there's nothing here. Equal sign, straight down. Keep things nice and organized. And then property of equality. Okay, 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So you can see that, well, we just worked backwards and we got the answer. We already knew that was the answer. These are the same problem. One in the forward direction, one in the back direction. So the big picture is equations, you start off with adding, subtracting, you get 3 to both sides, then multiplying, dividing, divided by 2 on both sides. Later on this year, we'll get to exponents, like if this was an x squared, we take the square root of both sides, things like that. That comes much later. And that's all you're doing. Of course, this isn't much different from what you already know. We might have to explain as we go along, but other than that, we know what we're doing. Okay. So big picture, know this phrase. Solve for the variable. First, I would, add 3 to both sides because it's the inverse of, which could be reciprocal or opposite, depending which one you're doing. Add, subtract, multiply, divide. This is big. Be able to write it out in words. Okay. This is the goal for everything. We're supposed to be able to solve an equation with one variable using 2 steps. Okay. That's our goal of all. Solve for a variable. And that means to get 1x or 1a. We don't write the 1, but we're trying to get 1 or something. So it's just x equals y equals a. Alright. So, we have,
Hi.
switch into the book. Right, go ahead and switch to the book. From your notes to the book.
No, 1. Yeah.
Please, at any time,
We have
feel
one
free
first period.
to highlight. Use different color pens, whatever you want. This is your book. You can take notes in any way you want. Okay? So feel free to do that if it helps you. And we're going to talk about 2 methods.
All right.
We're talking about working guess and check. You want to highlight that if you have a highlighter, underliner. And we're going to talk about working backwards. We're going to go ahead and solve this equation using both methods. Again, these are both things you've seen before. I'm just formalizing it to make sure we stay here together. We're all on the same page. And nothing out of the ordinary or nothing different than what we've done before. Okay. All right, so let's go over to part A. You're just filling this in your book. It says, go ahead and do a guess and check. The first two are guess and check. Go ahead and do a guess and check and guess 11. Go ahead and guess 11 for x. Okay, so here's x. Plug in 11. 11 minus 6 is what? 5. Okay, so it says equals question mark. So are these equal?
No.
No. So is 11 the solution of x minus 6 equals 4?
No.
No. Okay, so we're just pointing out something we probably already know, but if those are the same, two numbers on either side, then it's you guessed correctly. Or you solved and you did your check, and it turns out it's the correct answer. If these come out to be different numbers, then it's not the answer. Okay? Over here they say, well now let's guess 10. Alright, so we plug in 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. Alright. So now we have, you have to say the same. Right? Keep that to the exclamation point for the same. Okay, so yes, it is a solution. So every time you do a check, this is the process you go through. If it's the same, you're good, you circle your answer and move on. If it's not the same, there's a mistake somewhere, we got to figure it out. That's called the guess and check, where we just plug in the numbers in. Working backwards is what you guys usually think of. They say it's working backwards because of what we just did on the last slide, where it's working backwards from an expression. So here we can say, well, if x plus 6 is 4, well, if we add 6 to both sides, you know, that equals 10. Okay? And yeah, sure enough, 10 minus 6 equals 4. Yes. Okay? So add 6 to both sides. That's the technical working backwards, although you may not think of it as anything backwards at all. Just so you know, because they're gonna tell you the direction. Use the working backwards method. And if you're like, I don't know what that is, it's what you already know. Okay. So if you're taking notes, remember for me, taking notes doesn't mean just write down what you see up there. That's not taking notes. That's copying the board. Taking notes is something like, when I said working backwards is what you already know, that's when you go over here and you draw something, you know, an arrow, and you write a note to yourself. You know, taking notes is writing your own notes to say, working backwards, okay, the same as solving an equation like I normally do. You make a big note to yourself so you're not confused about what working backwards means at all. And of course, which answer do you think would be more, which method do you think would be more efficient? Guessing and checking or working backwards? Yeah, probably working backwards, especially when we get to more complicated, you know, problems that are, you know, long decimals and fractions. You're not just going to guess random decimals to see if they work. But the guess and check is more like for just checking your answer. So yeah, definitely you want to say working backwards. And this is where you have to write it out in sentences. And yes, I will check it with your homework because it's in the same book as your homework. And you want to have all is more efficient. Okay. Write it all out. Spelling does count in every building and everywhere you go. Efficient. Because you fill in your reason. Why is working backwards more efficient than guessing? How about you? Let's take a look at a few. Prerogatives. And here's where you can do some highlighting, taking notes here on the next page. we're giving official names to properties you use all the time. You guys know like commutative, associative, and distributive and things like that. We're going to give you these names, but really you already know what this means. Addition, property, equality. What do they do? Add the same thing on both sides. So we usually say, add, I'm going to abbreviate on both sides. But if we had to give an official, what property is this? It says commutative and distributive. You wouldn't say, oh, it's the add to both sides property. You'd say the addition property of equality, which isn't a far leap. There's an equal sign, and you're adding on both sides, hence the addition property of equality. Okay? And that goes for all of these. Subtraction property of equality, multiplication, division. So just know if they're asking for the actual property name, don't say, oh, the property name is add on both sides, or subtract on both sides. Subtraction property of equality. And so on. Might ask you to use these. So this is what we use to solve our equations. That's what we use to solve. For example, see how it's in reverse, add, subtract, multiply, divide, and so on. First thing we did, we saw minus 2, so we added 2 on both sides. Added 2 on both sides. Then combine like terms. Negative 2 plus 2, 0. 6 plus 2, 8. Then use the division property. Divide both sides by 3. These cancel out. Equals 1. So our answer is 8/3. Reminder that this should be a improper. And fully reduced. The only exception to this is that if this was like a word problem that's dealing with money, you wouldn't say, oh, I made $8/3. Right? You punch out in a calculator, 8 divided by 3, $2.67. You give the units of the question. So the question, if it's in a particular unit, like hours, same thing, you wouldn't say, oh, it took us 8/3 hours to get there. 2 hours, 40 minutes. And you actually come up with the right units. But when there's no units and it's not a word problem, we can just do a reduced and proper fraction. That's fine. You do not need to convert that to 2 2/3. And please be keeping this in mind. First, we're going to add, we're going to add 2 to both sides because 2 is the invert of the opposite of negative 2. Then we're going to divide both sides by 3 because it's not going on. Let's fill in one together. So it says, use the subtraction property of equality. All right, what should we subtract on both sides? Yeah, 4. So you just 4 on both sides. Combine like terms, which also means simplify. So negative 4 plus 4 is 0. We'll see we don't have it there anymore. 10 minus 4 is 6. Now, for you guys, if you do not need to do this in line, which I mean you have to do the minus 4s on the same line. If you prefer, you can do like what you're probably used to, and you just write minus 4 underneath. Either way is fine. As long as it gets you to here as the next step, you're fine. So either in line, it's all in the same line in your paper, or if you write it underneath. I actually prefer when you write it underneath. Easier to follow. And then go down. Okay, so now we can combine like terms. We did 10 minus 4 is 6. Now use multiplication property. So reciprocal of 1 over 2 is 2. 2 over 1. So we multiply by 2 over 1 on both sides. What's missing here? Yeah, just bring down the 6. And then 2 times 6 is 12. So first we subtracted 4 on both sides. Next we multiply by the reciprocal. 2. Be able to write these out in words. Okay. And if we had grouping, we'd undo the grouping. So these are just examples, sentence frames that you might use if they ask you to explain the steps. Good. Okay. So once again, let's get back to the big picture. Here's where you write. Same questions right there. You're going to write it in. Full sentence, complete sentences, spelling, and punctuation do count. So, what is the goal when solving a one variable equation? Just in general. I mentioned earlier, but what is the goal? Okay. Solve the problem. Okay. How do you do that? In general, yes.
The goal is to find value.
The goal, yeah, that's very good. Now, the goal is to find the value of x. Yeah, that's a good way to start the goal. That's what you do. And if you want to say the variable, it's not always x. So the goal is find. And you can use different words. You can say solve for instead of find. You write the goal, set the value of x. And how do you do that? So we got the, yeah, that's what you do. How do you do that? By using the properties of equalities, or by using the inverses. You know, we saw the sentence frame about the inverses. Using the properties. Yeah. Equality. So yeah, slightly different from before. Before we just got the answer, is it right? Yeah, okay, I'm done. Now we want you to actually explain what it is that you did, how to do that. Okay. If this was like an engineering class, okay, you built something. Show me and tell me how you built it. Okay. You designed a car. Okay. How did you do that? Not just, here's the car, I'm done, I got an answer. But how did you do it? How would you show somebody else how to build a car? Okay. You have to do more than just have the answer, but be able to explain and show other people. All right. So you're going to see this in your book. It's going to say solve the equation by using property of equality. And this isn't your homework number 3. This is the practice number 3. So this is not on page 9. But you're going to show the same old steps. Again, you can show them like this. You don't have to do the work in line. But then off to the side, you're going to say, I'll say addition or add. Addition property of equality, right? Or we can say add to both sides. Addition, I say POE, property of equality. How about that? So we don't have space here. Then we say, okay, bring down the 5x. And this is what we call simplifying, or you can say combine like terms. Okay, so then here we combine like terms. Alright. And I'm just using the same thing if you wrote this down. I'm just using this type of format. Okay, I'm going to say a property, and then combine like terms, say a property, simplify. And these are kind of interchangeable, the combine like terms and simplify. But that's all I'm doing. And then next, what property is this, by the way? Yeah, so we say the division. I'm going to abbreviate property of equality, POE. And then simplify. So the part on the left you're used to, simplify. The part on the right you're not, where it says to justify each step. And yes, you have to do that. That's part of the question. It's asking you, it's telling you, solve using the property, and here it says justify. Okay. And if needed be, first you add. We added 10 to both sides. You would write out the sentence as well. Next, multiply by reciprocal, 1/5. Dividing by 5, same as multiplying by a fifth. Same exact thing. Okay. So that's what's expected. Okay. Subtract 9 on both sides. Notice how I like to keep, and I'd like you guys to keep the equal signs lined up and drop things straight down. So like I didn't do anything to this, I just drop it straight down. This became a 0, so there's a space here. Got the equal sign straight down. And keep things vertically aligned. It's just easier to follow your work. Where did you get that? Oh, yeah, negative 9, positive 9, 0. That's why there's nothing there. 21 minus 9 is 12. And keep things vertically aligned throughout the problem. So multiplied by the reciprocal of 1 over 3 equals 1. So that equals 1x. We cancel out. This equals 36. You can see all the way down the problem, the equal signs line up. The 1/3, you can see it being brought down and then changed into a 1x. And then be able to, if asked to, write a sentence explaining everything. First I subtracted, oh, we didn't put the properties in the So here we do the subtraction property of equality. Here, I'm just going to say simplify. Here we did the multiplication property of equality and simplify again. This is stuff you already think. You're just not used to writing it down. This isn't like extra work, other than you have to write it. But we're talking about seconds here, not. So I don't want you to think, well, class got to be twice as long and this is harder. No, we're just writing more of what you've already thought. Yeah. Okay. Okay, good. Let's just take a look at the homework. We'll figure those out. Skip over to, our homework. So we have number 3. Start 3. So now here it says, using the properties of equality, check your solutions. So here's what I expect to see. Bring it straight down, line up the equal sign. 11 minus 3 is 8. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. There we go. And what else does it say? Are we done? No. Check your solution, like the guess and check. So this is one of those things where I know many of you follow your directions all the time anyway. But some of you are just kind of like, but I got answer, I'm done. So I'm telling you exactly, this is the work you have to show. Not if you want to, go ahead and do it, or if you feel like you go ahead and do it. Everybody, to get credit, needs to show what you're doing. Later on, we're going to throw in, okay, that's subtraction property of equality, this is the division property of equality, and we're going to have to give names to each step. And if you're not writing the steps down, obviously we can't label them. So we definitely have to do this. Okay, so 4, our answer is 2 we're going to try out. I'm just plugging it in here. 4 times 2 plus 3 is 11. Alright, 8 plus 3 is 11. 11 equals 11, so we said, they match. So now, for sure, that's when I'm going to circle my answer and say that's an answer. Some of us have a real bad habit of getting something here, and you circle it and say you're done. Well, you don't know it's the right answer yet. It's something. You don't know it's right until you do this step and show the work to prove it's the right answer. You don't want to circle it and say you're done with it. Now, when you get down to some of these others, you can see there's decimals. You can see there's fractions. Some of these answers will be fractions. Do not expect, maybe you're used to this, all the answers come out to these nice numbers that are always compatible. You might just have to reduce. When you get over here, let's say like on number 10, this is where life becomes very simple or very complicated, depending if you took my advice and you got the right calculator. Here's the work I want to see. That. This is as much work as I need to see right now. Now, if you don't know that 5 twelfths minus 1/4 is 1/6, okay, and you don't have a calculator to plug it in and just get that answer, you're going to have to do more work off to the side, and this is where things become a little bit more lengthy. So I highly, highly recommend save yourself from doing all this. I want you to punch it in. Get 1/6. And then multiply both sides by 3/1. 3/1. Y equals 1/2. If you put 1/6 times 3 in a calculator, it'll come out to 1/2. And you're allowed to, this is new, you're allowed to just punch it in. 5/12 minus 1/4 is 1/6. 1/6 times 3 is 1/2. And then you're done. Okay? You do not have to show this, but if you don't have a calculator of those fractions, you know, spend the $8.50, then yeah, you will just have to do it off to the side. We will not go over more problems because they have a fraction in it. We're not going to spend, Algebra 1 doing a lot of 5th grade arithmetic. Okay? We can do a few, but it's not going to be like tomorrow, well, I didn't get 10, 11, 12, 9, anything that has a fraction in it. You're going to have to use either your brain to show all the work or a calculator and just punch it in, okay? All right, good luck, and see you tomorrow.